Welcome to Wyndham in Western Australia. This is the Kimberley region of the north of WA, and we're going to spend a few days with Chris, who lives up here, and he's taking us down to the Pentecost River, the King River. We're driving up the Gibb River Road, and we're doing some incredible things, chasing barramundi, looking at some of the really ancient landscapes, and enjoying the whole scenery of this place. We've only got a couple of days to do it, so we're going to try and fit it all in, and I'm sure it's going to be the adventure of a lifetime. Most of the locations out this way require off-roading, and it's pretty important to be set up as best as you can, making sure that your car runs well and it's reliable. Getting stuck out here in 45 degrees with 90% humidity and not having the right vehicle or supplies can be the last thing that you do. So we're pretty well set up. You can see that these tracks are pretty rugged, and we're heading our way towards the Pentecost River to see what we can do down there. Sunrise on the Pentecost is just breathtaking. The early morning light is just something to experience. We're sitting here getting ready for our first fishing session, and we're just excited to get the poppers going and the live baits set in the water. You know, there's jabberoos and brolgers on the far banks just dancing around. Out in the middle of the water, there's crocodiles sticking their eyes up and having a look at us from a distance. And there's just all sorts of other wildlife all over the place. We were getting dive bombed by hawks and kites who were fighting each other just 50 metres away from us. This place is just special, and we're going to have an exciting first day. One of the most popular way to catch barramundi up in this neck of the woods is to use live bait or mullet, and that's done by casting a throw net. Chris is pretty good at this. He's had a lot of practice, and we're working on banks where it's pretty hard for crocodiles to jump up and do anything. So we're always mindful of what's going on around us at every turn when we're standing near the water on this river. Matt hooks into his first Barra, and it doesn't take long to get this little bucket mouth to the edge of the water, and Chris manages to snatch it up so we can have a good look at it. It's going to be the start of a great trip. Matt won, Chris and John yet to score. Just a little ways upstream from our spot, one of the locals is doing his own fishing in the shallows. It wasn't long before Chris hooks into his first Barra for the morning. About 58 centimetres, it was over legal size, but again we let this one go. They were starting to come in a little bit thicker and faster at this point in time. What'd you get that on?
It's actually first day I've gotten Barra on soft plastics. So it's soft plastic that I never bothered.
There's a massive amount of water up here at the end of the wet season, and the water has just turned brown with all that runoff from the land. It's quite incredible that the Barra can actually see the lures getting pulled through the water. Just as we're closing out on our first morning, Matt hooks into a fantastic Barra on the popper. It must have been pushing a metre, and it jumps out of the water 2-3 times just to let us know the fight's on. Unfortunately, just as he gets it a little bit closer to the bank, it throws the lure, and we're left wondering, was this the magic metre Barra that we were chasing? At the end of our first morning's fishing on the Pentecost, we had caught and released about 5 barramundi. It was just incredible to stand on the banks of this river and enjoy everything that it had to offer. As we headed back to Wyndham, again we went through the gorges and rocky outcrops that are so synonymous with the Kimberley region. And as the sun sweeps across the day, the colours vary from hour to hour, and the scenery is just breathtaking from sunrise to sunset. You know, there's a lot more to Wyndham and the Kimberley than just fishing, although that is pretty good on its own. But we got an opportunity to walk in some of the gorges and visit the billabongs, which were just full of life, with bird life and freshwater crocodiles and turtles and everything like that, and just frogs everywhere. Also the Aboriginal art that is up on the rocks itself, and that really was an experience to walk along there and just imagine what life would have been like thousands of years ago, living in these little billabongs and isolated areas of the Kimberley. The following day we found ourselves heading north along the raised banks of the King River. With the water levels dropping after the wet, we're able to access places that were a little bit harder to get to previously. This also meant that the action was a little bit slower in the water. So as we took time to set up our camp, we also took in the magnificent scenery and the plateaus that surrounded this amazing tidal river.
Put these legs down. If you hold it up, I'll get the other arms out. Yep.
With all the rods set up and our live bait in the water, it was just a question of waiting. And I guess we were waiting on whether the Barra bit first or the sandflies bit first as the sun set. Hey Matty, nice 55 centimetre first Barra.
Yeah.
Up in the Kimberley.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I was a day behind everyone else, and a bit of pressure starting to get on me, but I got him.
Well, as it turned out, it was a long afternoon and a long evening, but finally, just before giving up, Matt scores another Barra. So that ends a really long day and a long, wet, dark drive on the ride home for our last night. Sort of trying to make it home through the dark. A few obstacles on the road, eh?
Yeah, it's just had a bit of a rain, so it's a little bit wet.
Yeah. The next day, we managed to get back down to the Pentecost for one last crack. and each of us picked up a nice fish and were able to spend our last day in one of the best places just outside of Wyndham. There we go, my first Barra on the Pentecost River, and she's only just sized, but got her on a nice little popper, and 55 centimetres, and looks like that's going to be lunch today, so what an awesome trip. What's the score today? What do we get?
I got a undersized one and another undersized one.
So it's a couple of releases, catch and release.
Yeah.
Matt, you got a catch and release and a 65er?
62.
Oh, 62? Should have let him go.
I'll take that.
So that's our last fish at Pentecost, eh? For the trip?
Missed out a couple of them.
Yeah. Nothing on fly, one hit, that was it. Pretty good morning. With the fishing behind us now, we spent the last day looking at some of Wyndham's other attractions, like the old boab tree that was used as a prison over 100 years ago. Can't imagine what it would be like sitting inside a trunk in 45 degrees with 90% humidity. Amazing. A great place to cool off was the King River crossing the Gibb River Road, and we figured it was pretty safe to sit there as it was pretty shallow. It was 44 degrees and we were absolutely burning up. But we sat just as where the water ran over the road. It actually wasn't that refreshing, but it was wet, and when the breeze started, it cooled us off just a little bit. Towards the end of the day, after we had left the King River, we headed back up the Gibb River Road and we said farewell to some of the most amazing landscape I have ever seen, and that was the plateaus leading out to the Pentecost River. As the sun hits these plateaus in the morning, it is absolutely amazing and breathtaking. Later on, we headed out to the Billabong closer to Wyndham, and we had one last look at some amazing area. You have to be really careful where you drive around here. There's water everywhere, and what looks dry on top is not necessarily the case. But I could spend months in here just with a fishing rod, getting lost, looking for barra holes and keeping an eye out for crocs. Just an amazing place to spend a few days. After we finished here, we headed up to the lookout in Wyndham, and we just sat down and watched the sunset and just reminisced what we looked at over the past couple of days. So here we are at the lookout at Wyndham, overlooking the 5 rivers. And Chris will probably be able to name them, but we fished a few of them over the past few days, had some pretty exciting times thanks to Chris. Caught some awesome barra. Unfortunately, the biggest ones all got away, and we don't have any video evidence to show them because they just splashed and went away under the water. We all survived the crocs. We could see them from a distance, but they're all pretty good, and just had an awesome time. What was the best part for you, Chris?
Probably the end, actually, the last day, catching the barra on the lures.
Yeah, it was pretty full on, eh?
Yeah, it was good fun.
For half an hour, it just went crazy, didn't it?
Yeah, it was good fun.
About 6 or 7 hookups.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah,
3 landed.
yeah, it was good. What about you, Matt?
That'll be definitely the first Barra, so that'd be one, but just the wildlife, I guess. Wildlife in the Kimberley, it's an amazing sight. The crocs and the eagles, everything, dingoes, we've seen everything out there. Good time.
Yeah, it was awesome. A little bit hot for us southerners, but we got used to it just as we're going home. And actually can't wait to get back up here, and now that we've had a bit of a taste of it. We're going to come up armed and dangerous next time with all our fishing gear and just have an awesome time. But thanks a lot, Chris. That was fantastic.
No worries.
Really good trip. Even though we did it in a Nissan, it was still pretty good.